All right, good morning, guys. Today is Monday, April 27th, and we are going to get into our little discussion on LBJ, President Johnson today. We've talked about him some already. Looking for two attachments, whether you're looking on iTunes, you're looking on your email. The first one will say President Lyndon Johnson, going to look just like this, okay? And then the other one is called the presidential map. More on that in a minute. So let's hop in here so we use our time well here. So this is there's three parts you can read here with me that LBJ is known for three things: Vietnam, Civil Rights Act, and the Great Society. Civil Rights Act is tied to the Great Society, but they are a little bit separate in a lot of ways. So, and with number three, it's really his goal to create what's called a Great Society in America. So we'll get to that in a minute. Let's look at our key vocabulary here. I'm trying to give it to you real straight and quick here today, guys. Number one was, these are programs created under LBJ's watch. Number one is called Medicare. Matter of fact, if you have a job and you get a paycheck, you got a pay stub, you're paying Medicare taxes. Medicare gives guaranteed health care to the elderly in America. We still have that program today. Number two is Medicaid, M-E-D-I-C-A-I-D. Medicare creates health care for underprivileged families, still in effect today. Number three is called Project Head Start. And Project Head Start, created in the 1960s, still have it today, created to provide early childhood preschool for free for underprivileged children, typically ages, 2 to 5. So all three of those are part of number four. They're not the only parts of number four, but they are part of it. Number four is the Great Society. Think of a great society, a great place. Well, this was, the Great Society is the term used to describe LBJ's vision and plan to eliminate racial discrimination and to eliminate poverty completely in America. Kind of weird talking with that behind me. Some parts of the Great Society were, again, Medicare and Medicaid, Project Head Start, housing programs aimed toward helping the poor, food stamp programs, certain levels of unemployment insurance, dozens of other programs aimed to help the poor. So that is number five. Moving on to number five. Number five is the legacy of the Great Society. What is it, as we look back now, again, I'm giving this to you real fast, but as you look back at the Great Society, what do we think about when we think of the Great Society? The legacy of the Great Society. Well, here is some very brief data concerning that. Excuse me here. Number one, from 1965 to 2014, the poverty rate started at 15% of Americans were in the poverty level. And as of 2014, it remained at 15%. That indicates that poverty really wasn't changed at all due to all these programs that are going to be implemented in 1965-ish and on. By the way, today the poverty rate is around 12%. So the last few years it has finally dropped a little bit. No time to go into that. So, but the great, the legacy is poverty did not change. These programs are incredibly expensive. One argument is that it created a permanent welfare society. People that look to government as their source permanently, not maybe help a little bit here. Like right now, a lot of us need help with the coronavirus. A lot of people have lost their jobs due to the coronavirus. Well, some file for unemployment. That means with the government, they file to get a little bit of money to help them out during this, really tough time for our nation. So as an example. Also, the Great Society is responsible for a lot of the huge debt that we have every year and that we have overall in our country today. So those are big problems. So that's your legacy of the Great Society. Okay, number six, April 4th, 1968, Memphis, Tennessee, President MLK was assassinated. Martin Luther King Jr., number six, assassinated. Number seven is pretty cool. This is created, it's called Title IX. Number seven, Title IX. And when you write down 9, write down as a Roman numeral, IX. Obviously, civil rights is created to end racial discrimination. Title IX is an amendment to that to end gender discrimination in the workplace, in schools, wherever. There's a group called NOW, National Organization of Women. That's what NOW stands for there. They played a part to bring it to pass. One cool part of Title IX today that really helps out young ladies is, thanks to Title IX, colleges starting in the 70s must offer the same number of scholarships for men as they do for women. And that wasn't always so, whether it's athletics, academic, whatnot. Okay? So, number 8 is a name I hope you have heard before. July 20th, 1969, first man walks on the moon, and his name is Neil Armstrong. So you remember with the Cold War, we're wanting to beat the Soviets not only into space. Well, they beat us into space, right? They had the first satellite Sputnik from the 1950s. Well, fast forward 12 years later, we put the first man on the moon. So that was a big thing for the world. Number 9, almost done here. So a couple fun facts in the sports world. The 60s brings us our first Super Bowl. And that is well worth mentioning given how big football is in our culture. January 15th, 1967, Green Bay Packers defeat the Kansas City Chiefs 35-10. And let's finish up here. So number 10, back to the regular world. The word on number 10 is counterculture. And the counterculture in America was the rejection of traditional values in the 1960s by many younger Americans from teenage into maybe early 20s. Part of that counterculture was in the way people acted and dressed, like, hair is grown longer, dressed in a different manner. We'll leave it at that. A lot of people begin to experiment with drugs at a high level, other things at a high level. The famous concert Woodstock takes place in 1969, the big music concert, which is pretty much the epitome of the counterculture. A lot of these demonstrations and the anti-war movement was part of the counterculture. All of that is what we mean by counterculture. So let's finish up. Number 11, back to the sports world. Number 11 is the Boston Celtics. They won 8 NBA championships in the 1960s. That is the greatest NBA dynasty in terms of championships in basketball history. I got to leave it at that, but I thought it was worth mentioning. And they have the most NBA championships overall in NBA history as well. I think it's 22. I think they've won 22 titles. Let's finish up with number 12. Number 12 is a review term on Vietnam, and it was the escalation of troops. This is the term to describe the massive buildup of troops in Vietnam by LBJ during the 1960s. Okay? So those are your terms. And the last thing I will say to you today is you'll want to look at our presidential map. Sorry about this, guys. Got that glare. Sorry, I'm a mess. Got that? Okay, so you're looking for that. Okay. So as you bring that up, basically you have the president inside. Really cool quote about him, some cool info on him. And then you have the boxes all around him. In each box, you want to write down a brief definition of what the term is. Some of them are review terms from Vietnam and civil rights, and a lot of these are stuff we just talked about. There may be one or two you don't know. Look them up, Google them. There's no excuse not to answer these. Okay, you got the whole internet at your disposal. There are 2 of these I want y'all. As you look at this, I want you to cross out number 4. Okay, right here. Whoop. Yeah, right here, the urban race riots of the 60s. Just cross that out. We didn't touch it, okay? And I will give you one on number 9 right here, where it says the National Organization of Women from 1966. You can quote in quotations. Again, that's called NOW, N-O-W, okay? And below NOW, you can write created, partially responsible for creating Title IX that we just talked about, okay? So number 9, they help create Title IX. Everything else you're responsible for on your own, okay? Email that to me when you're done. Hope you can join us for class. I think this is better in class. Wednesday we'll talk about Nixon and some real interesting stuff as we get into the 70s. So that is it. I appreciate you guys.